Presenting this demonstration of imaging activities for Windows Workflow Foundation is Casey Muse, Pegasus Imaging's software development program manager responsible for its overall architecture. Windows Workflow Foundation presents a new development environment option for software engineers to use. Many useful activities ship with Windows Workflow Foundation and .NET 3.0. However, most are general purpose and do not solve specific business problems. This is where Pegasus Imaging's activities fit in. You can add imaging activities to Windows Workflow Foundation applications. This technology is also the back-end workflow engine behind Sharepoint, so that any type of imaging activity can be used inside of MOS. Pegasus imaging activities are used in applications to batch process images on servers. This includes image conversion, cleanup, barcode, OCR, and more. Domain experts and stakeholders benefit from the Windows Workflow Foundation Graphical Designer, which provides visibility through flowchart representations into an application not possible with code. It easily supports audits and verifications of business-critical processes by third parties. It's a lot easier to be looking at a visual representation for that third-party verification rather than having to walk through code. Let's have Casey show you how to drag and drop your way into building a workflow.
What I want to have happen is I want to have some sort of folder on my system that I monitor for incoming images. In a common scenario, you might have a folder that's the recipient location, if you will, from email, from network drops, from multifunction devices, and so forth. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to write a little application that monitors this particular folder. And I'm going to be dragging and dropping some sample images into that folder that we'll process. A common occurrence whenever we're actually doing an application like this is for archival purposes, we might want to have all of our files saved in the same format. So say that we have incoming TIFF files or bitmap files or JPEGs, we want all of them to end up in our archive system as a PDF file, for instance. So we're going to build an application that makes that happen. Okay, so let's move over to Visual Studio. And inside of Visual Studio right now I have the Windows Workflow Foundation Designer loaded. The things that you're seeing on the screen, load image, save JPEG, save PDF, and so forth, these are activities. In Windows Workflow Foundation, everything is done through activities, and these activities are found over in your toolbox on the left hand side. And you can have different types of activities that accomplish different actions. Right now, what we have shown in our Visual Designer is conversion activities. We're loading an image and then we're going to save it out. You can see the different types of activities that Pegasus Imaging is supporting in our scan-fix workflow product. We have auto-binarize, binarize, despeckle, dilate, erode, etc. And also in our image express activities, which are the conversions that we talked about prior. In addition, Windows Workflow Foundation does ship with a set of kind of generic activities that are helpful in actually building your workflow. And if you see here, we're actually using a couple right now. This is the if-else activity, and then you can see that we have different branches for the different conversion types that we might want to support. So if we look over at our main form of what our interface looks like here, you can see we're just going to be monitoring a folder. We're going to allow the user to set what format they're going to pick, and then we're going to hit start, and then it's going to be monitoring that folder. And for each file that gets dropped into that monitored folder, an instance of this workflow is going to run. So let's just demonstrate it real quick just to get an idea of what this application does. So you can see that I'm watching that folder to watch, and we're going to pick PDF. And as you can see here, I have JPEG, PDF, or TIFF. And depending on what my selection is there, makes a difference as to which branch of that back-end workflow is going to run. So we're just going to use PDF for now. So I'm going to start monitoring. I'm going to go and select that sample image that I'm going to use. I'm going to copy it over, and I'm just going to paste it in that folder that I'm monitoring. And so you can see a background, that workflow process just executed, and it created us a result PDF. So let's just open it up, take a look at it. We did our file conversion successfully. We took that TIFF file that we dropped and made it into a PDF. But we might want to have had some sort of cleanup process run along with this, because you can see there's actually a pretty bad skew angle. This is going to be more common if you're coming from a scanner source than necessarily a file, but no matter the file type, we want to make sure that what we're ending up with is good, clean images. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show how easy it is to modify that workflow, not using any code, to not only do the file conversion, but also do that DSKU as well. So I'm going to close this down and clear out that folder that I'm watching and go back to Visual Studio. So now you can see I'm back in the Visual Studio Designer, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag and drop from my toolbox that DSKU activity. And just to make things easy, we're just going to modify that PDF branch since that's what we're working with for now. So I select my activity and I drag it into the location to the designer where I'd like it to go. So now you can see this is reads top down, just kind of like a regular flowchart would. We would start with our load image, and depending on our if-else, if JPEG, we would go down this branch, and if we selected PDF, we would do our DSKU and then our save, and then again, if TIFF, we would just do the save TIFF. So let's continue to focus on our PDF branch, and you'll see that there's a little exclamation mark here that's indicating that we have an error in our workflow. If you look, it's just saying that that input image isn't set. Everything in these activities work for the ScanFix activities work on, we give it an input image, it performs the action, and then we get the output. And as a result, we need to set whatever that input image is. Well, what we want to be the input into the DSKU is that output image that we loaded in our load image activity. So I select DSKU, come down to input image, bring up that binding dialog, and what I'm going to do is just select the output image from the load image activity. And the exclamation part goes away. So now you can see that we've got this portion of the workflow wired up. We're going to load the image, and the image that got loaded is our input to the DSKU. Well, we also want to make sure that what we're saving out is the output from the DSKU activity. So with the save PDF activity, I need to come back down here to the input image, just click it real quick, navigate down in my tree to that DSKU activity, and I'm going to set that input to be the output from my DSKU process. Again, all we're doing is wiring things top down. So we start with the load image. The output of the load image is the input to the DSKU. The output of the DSKU is the input to my save. So that's it. That's all we needed to do to modify that workflow. So let me close down the application, the last instance. And now I'm going to rebuild. So we're rebuilding our workflow. We can see it launched. So let's just start monitoring that folder again. Do the same thing. We're just going to drag and drop that image over to our monitored folder. The output is created. And this time, when we open it up, we have a nice clean image that doesn't have a skew angle on it. We've removed that skew. So as you can see, it's really easy to be able to quickly modify the workflow that's running for a background process. All you do is you have to drag and drop over to the Workflow Designer, and you have to wire your inputs and outputs to your activities. This is a lot better than having to write in code, because to be able to modify that, I would have had to possibly edit multiple lines of code, and it would have had to be done by a pretty technical person to be able to follow what was going on inside that code logic.
We would like to thank you for viewing our demo. Please download the extensive white paper and trial download version for ScanFix Express, Barcode Express, and OCR Express. Please call us with any questions or email us at sales@jpg.com. We look forward to hearing from you.